Hi, everybody.
We're doing a routine.
We are. A little song and dance included. I'm Sarah Oxford, and this is Melinda Rice, and we're going to take the next 20 minutes to talk to you about our journey with evaluating pilot programs. There's three things we want you to take away from our presentation, especially for those who are a bit on edge about doing evaluations. One is that evaluations don't have to be complex. Two is that evaluations, it's really better if you invest in them early in your project. And three, evaluations can lead to helping stakeholders make informed decisions. So Mel, I'm going to ask you, what was the problem? What was going on with your work and your team? And why did you ask ISCRR to get involved?
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. So the project team were tasked with reviewing our clinical expertise within WorkSafe Victoria. And for those that don't know, that is a clinical panel that we call it, that's made up of a number of clinical experts across a number of disciplines. So that was really to ensure that our clinicians are providing that expertise and providing maximum value to what they're doing, and also that we're positively impacting injury-work outcomes at the end of the day, and that's what we're here to do. So following stakeholder consultation in 2020 now, we landed on these two pilots because they were a different way of working, I guess, for us. And there was a lot that came out of the research with the users and a lot of different ways we could go. And we have gone since then. But this was the two pilots that we obviously undertook with ISCRR. So the clinical hotline pilot was about allowing our stakeholders to come into us when they wanted to access the clinical expertise, as opposed to WorkSafe dictating when that happens more so. And the review pilot was around a multidisciplinary team getting together with our clinical experts and really being able to nut out problems in a safe environment where they could have frank conversations amongst their peers. And I guess the reason we got ISCRR involved, we required a formal, I guess, evaluation, and touching on what Sam said earlier, we also wanted an independent research piece there as well, who had the capacity and I guess also the willingness to really embed themselves in our program of work. And as I said, ultimately to be able to impact the injury worker outcomes.
Great. So what did this look like? So at ISCRR, we do lots of program logics, and we encourage groups to do program logics. You might have seen my face in a few videos. We got Mel's teams together. So we worked on two different pilots at the same time. And so we created two different program logics, but this was for the hotline pilot. And the reason we do this is because often you have groups of people in the room and they don't agree on the same problem. So we do this to make sure everyone's on the same page. What is actually the problem that we're trying to resolve? Second, it helps us figure out, what are you looking to do? What are you hoping will happen? And it's on different timeframes, but that blue sky that Grace was talking about, what do you want to happen in 6 months in this case? Then you work backwards and you can figure out, well, what do we need? What do our activities look like? And really, what does this theory of change to get us from A to Z look like that we need to pull together? So we worked with Mel's team on this. And then from this program logic, we created an evaluation framework. And we really focused in the middle, the short-term outcomes of 0 to 3 months. And we turned those learnings for the outcomes into questions that really guided our evaluation. So Mel, what did this look like for you? How did it feel to do the program logic? And what did your team get out of it?
For us, I guess, it challenged us, I guess, to begin, because the team had certain ideas around how we would go, and I think once we actually worked through it, that changed. The why we did it, we wanted to set ourselves up for success, really, and to ensure that we were tackling the right problem. And I think after the consultation with our stakeholders, which was both internal and external, there was a lot of information. We knew where we wanted to go. And we knew what the problems were. However, I guess, as we all know, you get into a pilot phase and then you're starting to think about all these different things. Imagine this, imagine that, what we could do. And it's very easy to get off track. So I think it was about keeping us, on a clear path into what we wanted to get. The program logic really supported the evaluation framework, as Sarah said, and it's been great to utilise that with our stakeholders when explaining the program of work, but also to bring ourselves back to this all the time, reflect on it, look at, well, what are we trying to achieve, and what we're doing, is it in line with the activities we had said? Yes, things will change, and if they did, we came back and slightly modified, which was fine, and then looked at the evaluation framework in line with this always. So it was highly valuable. The team really loved it, and we've used it more since doing these. Yeah,
great. Go to the next one. So after we had the program logic, we determined, and the evaluation framework was coming together, we determined that the best methodology was a rapid evaluation methodology. If you haven't heard of this before, rapid evaluation methodologies are often used in times of crisis. We could expect that they're being used on the ground by aid agencies now in Turkey, and we saw them used by the Department of Health during COVID. So it's when you need to make fast decisions and when you need to have a group working together to collect that data. So we use this because it's not just a helpful methodology for crisis situations. It's also helpful if you have pilots where you need information fast to make decisions. So this is what it looked like. We got together, if you're thinking, we're right at the top under rapid evaluation. We did the program logic, the evaluation framework. We talked about what this would look like and what capacity we needed among both Mel's team and my team. The pilot was launched. And then the WorkSafe team would provide us with people who had called the pilot, who had called the hotline, who had not called the hotline, groups that they're interested in having information from. And we would do interviews with them, asking them, what was your experience like? What could work better? What would you like changed? At the same time, Mel's team was collecting quantitative data. So who was calling? What treating health? What background did they have? Why were they calling? What hours were they calling? What clinical expertise were they seeking? We then collated this information, compared our findings, and made suggestions every month to the working group. And then the working group could use this information to make decisions and change what they wanted to do for the next phase of the pilot. So it just kept going in this cycle. How did this work for you, Mel?
Yeah, look, it was great. And I think we came in thinking we wanted to take an iterative approach to how we approach these pilots, and ensuring we wanted to listen to the end users, but we didn't know exactly what that would look like. And as we sort of commenced the pilot and invited ISCRR along to listen in originally, I guess that was the intent of the working group, to sort of understand what's being said on the ground. And it was, very, very soon that we went, actually, we can do more with this and really make it work for us. So I think it provided that opportunity to consistently get feedback, talk about that as a group, and be able to make some decisions there and then and move things along, rather than the traditional way, I guess, back in the day, where we'd wait, that didn't work, and wow, that was a lot of lost time, wasted energy, and we've missed our opportunity. So it was really a way for us to be able to do that, and I'll talk about it a bit later, but we did see some really great changes. That's probably, I think, for that.
So what did it look like when we came to the working group meetings? This is an example of some findings that we shared. So we'd focus on barriers and enablers for the hotline. And these are some examples of the success factors we heard about in the interviews. So callers were saying we had a great experience, our call was answered, our question was answered, their perceived impacts, their confidence was growing, they were able to make decisions that improved the injured worker's experience and recovery. They felt like they're building their capacity, and they also, interestingly, talked about an improved perception of WorkSafe Victoria. Mel, do you have any other examples of what this looked like for you?
This is probably a really good one. So this sort of shows that we got the ISCRR feedback, and it was definitely around more promotion being needed, as a lot of the THPs were still unaware of the service. So when ISCRR contacted large practices that undertook WorkSafe work, they were saying they still weren't aware of it. And this was in a time of COVID. They were focused, and we knew that it would always take a lot of time with the treating health providers to understand that was available, and for that to happen. So we got to the working group and had some really great discussion around further marketing opportunities there. And some of the clinicians in the working group suggested some more informal communication, because they understand that that's where they've seen things work before, and that's where they tend to go to, as opposed to newsletters and the like. They go to their own group. So that iteration was that, particular content was provided to the clinical, the clinicians on the hotline and to our clinical panel as well to share with relevant groups. So there's a GPs Down Under group and the like, and they put them into those Facebook pages to be able to see if we could get some uptake in that way. So that's one example of, I guess, of many of, along the way what we found and how we changed.
In the working group meetings, we would also discuss next steps. So we knew from the beginning of this pilot, there was consideration for this to become business as usual. So when we conducted interviews, we would say, what is the best way this could be provided to you as a platform? And we discussed, is the hotline the best way? Should it be an email query or a chat function? And we would bring these answers to the working group and kind of nut out what is the best feasible way for this to go forward. So this is just an example of another finding that we would discuss for next steps.
I think on that for us, and really quickly on that one, but it was allowed us to consider the feedback and understand what may or may not be possible early. So once the program's wrapped up, we already had our heads around a little bit on where they may likely go, what the options were, and certainly we'd sort of started to think about them as a group and socialise them in terms of what they may look like for the future. So that was, really useful.
So then I asked Mel to discuss, well, what is the research impact from this piece of work? How did it help you? What is happening now?
And this slide, there's a bit there, so I won't go through it all. But the impacts of the research obviously were widespread, from, as we can see up top, changing our communication, which has happened, to informing decisions. So down there we can see that we've made decisions to continue the pilots. We've rebranded one. We've created a new role, a triage role there, expanding to other disciplines now. So a lot of decisions that we were able to make through the research that came through from Sarah and the team. With regards to the societal change there, definitely we heard about an improved perception of WorkSafe through that, which was fantastic. We've had a real positive culture shift, and I think really importantly here, not just around these pilots, but these were really a catalyst to our division starting to use program logics, and we've done many of those since then around physical injury, mental injury. There's a couple of others I think I can't top of my head, but certainly ISCRR have now facilitated a lot of that for us, and people are using them and understanding how they can help them in their work. It's initiated in-house change management plans, and I guess really importantly there, when we think back to the program logic and our longer term hopes and outcomes, there was that change in, for the injured worker. So as most here would know, in claims management, it's really hard to evaluate and say, yes, that was directly related to what we did. But when we did do the evaluations at the end, from a data perspective, 3 and 6 months, certainly we did see a significant change in the treatment pathway. So a change in that more evidence-based treatment from the discussions with our clinicians. Some, as I say, non-value sort of treatment that has been avoided, and certainly an increase in the injured workers' capacity on their certificates, and an improvement in return to work status on both the pilots as well. So which was really, really pleasing. And then just a couple of other things I've put there in terms of, who we now work with, practice managers and that sort of thing that we didn't necessarily think about up front, but became aware of that during the pilot, and now have engaged with those groups to further these great pieces of work.
So thank you everyone for listening to our journey. We hope that you now understand how evaluations don't have to be complex. It's best to get in early to embed the evaluation, and how the information collected during an evaluation can help inform decision making. And we welcome your questions.
Thanks.
So thank you both for that incredible journey to show the importance, not only why we need to pilot programs, but to set up a proper evaluation framework to do so, and do so effectively. And the question that came through, I think, really exemplifies this, because there will be many people listening in and in the audience today who will be piloting their own programs, and wondering that, do you feel that all pilot programs are appropriate for this type of approach?
Do you want me to go? Definitely not. So again, you need to have someone who can make a decision, who has the power to make a decision. If they have to go up and ask for permissions to make changes, then this isn't the right approach because it'll take too long to get that information back. And you also need to have a team that has depth. So if both teams don't have that depth, so if I can give you an example, our team had 3 to 4 researchers who could jump on. Let's say we need to do 20 interviews in 1 week. I could say, Amanda, Carmen, Ivana, can you guys pause on your other work and give me a day and do interviews so we can, get these done and move forward. So it really takes a specific type of project for this work.
Yeah, and I think just further to that, probably just projects where key stakeholders can get together on a regular basis. And I know that's not always possible, but certainly with this, we had a key group and on a monthly basis, we did get together and we did make joint decisions and we were able to run with them pretty quickly afterwards. But if you're going to get half or a quarter of those people along and you don't have that, that engagement from the group, then I don't think it would be appropriate either. Yeah.